Well, in other clips, Visvin Reddy has been quoted as saying that there would be a civil war in South Africa and no one would be allowed to vote if MK was not on the ballot. Well, Visvin Reddy is a member of MK. He's also the president of the political party African Democratic Change. Visvin, good afternoon to you. Why are you making such an inflammatory claim that there'll be a civil war, that no one would be allowed to vote if MK is on the ballot? Why what really seems to be a threat of violence?
That is a cautionary note that I gave, and I think we need to place that into its correct context. You know, we are reeling from the aftermath of the July riots and looting that took place in this country, where over 300 people were brutally murdered, 50 billion rands worth of damages caused, and millions of people were out of a job. In fact, people are still in fear of what had happened then. I am an advocate for peace. And we warned President Ramaphosa at the time that arresting President Zuma, will unleash these types of violence. And there was an inquiry that found that Zuma's arrest and incarceration was one of the factors that contributed to the riots and the looting. Now, the government must be told that President Zuma, enjoys wide support throughout the country. There will be anger. Now, what has happened here is if Ramaphosa adopted a different approach, and if the courts, the commission did not find that there was a need to arrest him and put him into jail because he did not attend a commission. Remember, Zuma was not found guilty of any crime of state capture or anything like that. He did not attend a commission hearing, and that's the reason why he was arrested. Now, if that did not happen, there would not have been riots and looting. Let's look at it like that. In the same way, the ANC chooses to go to court because it wants MK not to use a logo it claims that it owns. The name uMkhonto Sizwe, the ANC says, belongs to ANC. The ANC did the very same thing to Cope. It took Cope to court. It lost in court. Now, I believe, and I'd like to believe, South Africans would like to believe, that the judiciary is independent. But would you blame us if we have suspicions when the judiciary in this country, especially the judge president and other commissioners, including the IEC, are appointed by the president of the country, who in our case is also the president of a political party?
Okay, but hold on a second, Visvin. Jacob Zuma's been president. He was elected president of this country twice, right? Yes?
Yes.
And who oversaw the elections that led to that happening? It was the Electoral Commission. It's the same Electoral Commission, pretty much the same people who are running this election. So why all this war talk now?
It's not war talk. It's caution. We need to be wary that if these things go in a way where it excludes MK and the way it is perceived, my ear is on the ground. When I speak, I'm speaking to ordinary people who probably don't even watch this program because they cannot afford to buy a television. We live in a country where 55% of our people live in abject poverty. They don't have the luxury of having a television screen to watch even this interview. These are people that perceive the attempts by the ANC to go to court. They perceive these attempts to be something that the ANC is trying to interfere in the electoral process to eliminate an opponent that it sees as a real threat in the coming election.
So just hold on, Visvin. I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you run away from me, and I know that no one likes to be interrupted, so I apologize. But let's see if we can do this.
Sure.
You started off by referring to the violence in KwaZulu-Natal primarily, but also in Gauteng in 2021. So I just want to understand this. Are you saying then that if people who support former President Jacob Zuma don't get what they want, they're going to engage in violence? Really? Is that your argument?
I think you need to look at it from the other side of the coin, and I'll expect this from some media. The point I'm making is that the ANC should withdraw this application. In the interests of democracy, in the interests of peace, they should withdraw this application, a frivolous application, wasting the time of the courts, taking this matter to go there to try and get MK out of the ballot paper. Don't you think that if the ANC is concerned about having a democratic election, free and fair, that there's no need to go to court to claim that they own the MK logo. And I don't go into details on this. It's a legal matter where the ANC doesn't really have a case in this.
Okay, well,
now for them to come up...
Let me put it to you like this. Would the name uMkhonto with Sizwe, Spear of the Nation is the English translation usually, would it mean anything without the ANC? I put it to you, it wouldn't.
The same with COPE, Congress of the People. Congress of the People wouldn't mean anything without the ANC. The same freedom. Freedom is synonymous, supposed to be synonymous with ANC. Justice, peace, supposed to be synonymous with the ANC. But the ANC of today is not the ANC of yesterday. The ANC we have today is a captured ANC.
Okay.
Ramaphosa is one of those leaders who is the captured leader. That is a fact that we need to accept.
I realize, Visvin, you're going to use this opportunity as much as you can. It's my job to try and stop you. Okay. But one of the things about this is that you could have called your party anything under the sun, literally anything. But you've decided to choose it. You've decided to name it after a body which everybody knows was created by the African National Congress. I mean, everybody knows this. A name used by the African National Congress until at least around 2017 when it was called the MKMVA. And I know you will say the MKMVA no longer exists. That's fine. The point is it was still used by the ANC up until that point, all the way from really the 1950s until 2017.
I'm impressed with your knowledge of the history of the ANC.
Well, thank you.
But you quite rightly pointed out that MKMVA was removed from the ANC. And now they are claiming that the uMkhonto with Sizwe party is part of the ANC. Look, President Zuma is, and no one can dispute this, he's a former president of the ANC. Mosiuoa Lekota, Julius Malema, they all came out of the ANC. The economic freedom fighters, the concept of economic freedom comes out of the ANC. It's where the ANC failed that many of its leaders had left, continue a fight that the ANC had committed to continue in government. And the ANC failed to do it. So do you blame leaders of the ANC to have left the ANC and to perform other political movements? You see, this is not a liberation struggle here anymore. The ANC fought in the liberation struggle, but the ANC government is a complete failure.
Okay.
That's the reason why many of the ANC leaders have left the ANC and have formed their own political parties. I can argue economic freedom fighter. Economic freedom is an ANC concept taken over by Julius Malema. The same with Congress of the People.
Okay.
Came out of the history of the ANC.
Okay, your members tried to disrupt the presidential Imbizo in Mpumalanga today. That was the report that I saw. You seem to be threatening, I think the phrase you used was civil war. Is this the official policy of MK to disrupt political events? Is it the official policy of MK to basically threaten violence?
It's definitely not the policy of MK. And I need to state this quite categorically, that the President President Jacob Zuma, has often spoke to members and has spoken about peace. He has condemned any form of violence. He has condemned this is the tactic the ANC uses, by the way. We are saying that if any of the MK members are thought to be involved in such activity, they will be dealt with through disciplinary proceedings. Now, I don't think that we can also label anyone who disrupts a meeting to be MK supporters. I mean, that label used to be given to the EFF at one time. Now it seems to be a new label given to MK. My views are my personal views. They're not the views of the uMkhonto with Sizwe party. And I must say that if I was misconstrued in any way, I want to apologize. I certainly will not incite any form of violence. I do not believe that our country can afford to have tensions of this nature, especially in the run-up to the elections. We want a free and fair election where every South African can campaign, can vote for the party of their choice without parties like the ANC using court processes, IEC processes to stifle the democratic will of the people.
All right, Visvin, I mean, I often think our politics would benefit from more apologies. So I'm intrigued to see what you say now. I do have two questions for you, if I may, and they're personal questions for you, Visvin. You yourself are the president of one party, right? You've got your own political party. And you're a member of MK. So who are you going to vote for on the 29th of May?
I'm going to be voting for the MK party. I'm not the only one. There are a number of smaller political parties that will be supporting and have already indicated their support and are actively campaigning for the MK party, a number of them. And the main reason is that there's no place in politics. If you want to remove the ANC, you need to be part of a movement that has the capacity to remove the ANC from government. Smaller parties with smaller votes, smaller seats can do absolutely nothing. They are useless in government.
Okay.
Ask the DA. The DA has never been a majority, and they've been frustrated because all they do is make speeches, eloquent speeches. And if you're a party with 4 members in parliament, you only have 3 minutes to speak. So that 3 minutes, if 2 minutes you are busy clearing your throat, you're literally left with 1 minute. I'm not casting aspersions on the ability of some leaders to speak, but some of them take a long time before they can make a point. So what we need is a challenge to the ANC right now, and the only challenge that exists that's there. Remember, there's an ANC leader that said once that the only way the ANC can be defeated is through the ANC itself. And the time for that to happen is actually now. So parties like myself that could have contested, got 1 or 2 seats, gone into parliament, that's creating employment for 1 or 2 people in parliament, there's no place for such people. And South Africans have become wary of that.
Okay. So are you going to close down your party and fold it into MK?
No.
Or Visvin, are you going to keep your options open in case it doesn't go too well for you?
Well, we are in a unique position in that we have seats in local government. The municipalities where we contested, we have seats in those municipalities, in the Free State and in KwaZulu-Natal. So we have an agenda. You know, I've also been campaigning against the fuel prices in this country. We've discussed this with President Zuma. He has embraced our campaign. In fact, MK will be the only party taking up the fight to lower fuel prices into Parliament. And that's what we need. And that's the reason why we've thrown our weight behind the uMkhonto Sizwe party. There are a number of issues. I don't want to start talking about it now because you'd accuse me of politicking on your platform. I don't want to do that. But that's basically the reason.
All right. Plenty of politicking to come between now and the 29th of May, Visvin. I can promise you that. Visvin Reddy is president of the African Democratic Change, and, as you heard him say for himself, a member of MK.